Welcome to the Elle-Sera podcast. Today's guest is the lovely Natalie Parsons from Parent Promise. She's here to tell us all about their brand and what it stands for and represents. And of course, working at Elle-Sera, we are very, very supportive of Parent Promise now. We've got baby Grace in our mix. So Natalie, without further ado, tell us a little bit about you and Parent Promise.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on today. Really excited to do this. Parent Promise, we help businesses become an employer for life simply by helping them to support new and expectant parents whilst they're embarking on their journeys growing their families. There's a huge issue with businesses not really knowing how to support people during this transformational period of their lives. And we're basically there to make sure that they have the right processes, support in place to make sure that people thrive in and outside of work when they become parents.
It's brilliant, and we are right there supporting you with it. As we've touched on, Alyssa's just had her first baby, and straight away the struggles of, we're not a vast company. We're a two-hander, and so I'll have baby Grace from time to time. But if that was a bigger organisation, the going from being a parent, or even having go through pregnancy straight into going back into the workforce, that's already a massive task for any woman. And then having to return to work and think, oh my God, what am I going to do? And by having more understanding employers, hopefully that will start getting things in motion for more women feeling supported in the workplace, as you've said. What's the timeline? How do you help companies support these women?
So we have a 3-phased approach.
Mm-hmm.
So we first off start with a consultation. So what we'll do is we'll go into businesses, have a look at what family-friendly policies they have, what processes do they have in place, from anything as little as how are you acknowledging that pregnancy announcement, to how do people actually feel about the processes that you have in place? Is it working for them? Because a lot of the time there is a disconnect between what you as an employer feel you are doing for your employees to what people actually feel. And we think that's a really important aspect to get across. So that consulting basically gives a whole host of recommendations to help businesses truly support people. And I'm not talking about, just increasing paternity pay. That's a really obvious thing that you can do to support people. I'm talking about the sort of softer stuff that actually ultimately matters more, how people are treated day in, day out. And then after the consulting, we have specific wellbeing support for parents in the workplace. So we have an amazing on-demand midwifery service that's all on WhatsApp. So the idea is that 7 days a week, all parents can basically ask any question to a midwife, any concerns they might be having about any stage of their pregnancy, return to work, post-birth, etc., all of that. The knowledge that midwives hold is just insane. I think a lot of people just associate midwives with that care sort of leading up to giving birth, but actually they have a wide range of knowledge, not just for mums, but for dads and partners who are looking to support their other halves, but also looking for advice on how to support themselves and sort of maintain positive well-being, because that's an adjustment for partners and men as well, becoming parents for the first time. And then, of course, we also deliver our Dear Bent Wellbeing boxes alongside that digital support as well. And then we have a resource hub with loads of information on topics relating to sort of all of those stages of pregnancy and parenthood to, again, give people access to expert support that they can trust.
It is a brilliant platform.
It's a lot of stuff, but I forgot one important thing. One really unique thing that we do as well is we actively check in on people. So we will just send out a wellbeing message, just asking people how they're doing, and the responses that we get from those wellbeing messages, I think, have exceeded our expectations. And people really do value that, particularly once they're on maternity leave. You can feel quite disconnected from the world, but just having somebody checking in, it gives you the opportunity to kind of ask for help, and perhaps you may not have reached out for it in the first place as well.
Yeah, I think people's expectations are pretty on the floor when it comes to customer service. And I know you are very, very passionate, like we are, about going that extra mile and making sure, you know, these people are feeling supported, are feeling heard. That when we spoke about your WhatsApp group, straight away my eyes lit up. I was just thrilled to know that there is that go-to straight away service that you don't get anywhere else. And you mentioned Dear Bump again, brilliant packaging for the pregnancy element of things. But that goes outside postpartum too. There's just a wealth of information on your platform, and I always signpost people to come and check you guys out. And I'm so thrilled that you're here to talk about it today. What I do want to touch on, because I know that I have just done it then, and I feel quite mad at myself for doing it. People make a real misconception that there's always that prominent parent, and it's usually the woman in a relationship. I have just made reference to how do you help mums, how do you help women? And I'm so glad that you counteract that with actually it's partners and men as well. Tell me how you would aid partners and those wanting to support mums through pregnancy.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we get it a lot even from businesses as well, who will just immediately go, oh, we don't have very many women that are pregnant, but you have a load of men. Surely they're fathers too. They also should be part of this discussion. For us, we treat them exactly the same, bar a few little details. So they still get wellbeing messages. They still have access to all the resources that birthing and women and people do as well, because it's also important for men as well to know what's happening as their baby is growing, and sort of knowing how to, like, even what to put in a hospital bag, things like this. Like, it shouldn't really be gendered. So we really try to neutralize all of our language and all the resources that we create to make sure that men feel included, and that is a resource for them too. All of our wellbeing boxes, again, those are all tailored to each parent group, gender, and who that individual's partner is as well. So we take all this information and make sure that we put products and information to help at the right time as well.
Brilliant.
But also as well, I can talk about a specific use case that we had, which I think actually really shows the power of what we're doing. So we had a male use our male. That sounds good. We had a gentleman use our midwife chat, and he was quite concerned about the fact that his partner, who's a woman, was sleeping quite a lot in the day, having just had a child, and at the time, I think he thought it was quite a trivial question that he was asking. You know, I just want her to get up. It's kind of not healthy to be sleeping so much. And through talking with our midwives, they were able to tell him that actually this could be a sign for postnatal depression. And actually it may not be as trivial as you initially thought. And so actually our advice is to go and get her to see a doctor just to kind of rule that out. So helping partners sort of recognize those signs as well is also part of the package of support as well, because we know ultimately as a partner you want to make sure that your partner is well mentally, physically, and yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So
just by reaching out to a midwife, asking what he thought was a very trivial question, it perhaps prevented something that could have been quite dark for both parties. That's just brilliant. And news to our ears always. We are big supporters of yours at Elle-Sera for these very reasons. We have a lot of gentlemen and female partners that will contact very similarly. Hormones, post-pregnancy, hormones are just everywhere. And it can happen through many stages in life. You're just dealing with it in kind of like the postpartum, or sometimes even during pregnancy too. It is really, really important that people can identify these hormonal imbalances and the tricks that they can play on people's minds. And in that instance there with that lady, and, you know, I'm hoping that there was a nice story that came out of that, and that they were both feeling very helped and supported.
Yeah, we're hoping so, obviously, because it's, we don't know what happens sort of after that. But
maybe we're hopeful check in with them next time, they're going to give you a thumbs up.
Yes, hopefully.
Brilliant. Yeah. Where did Parent Promise come from? Where was the idea sparked? Was it did you feel like there was a lack of this sort of service and jump on it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story, because Parent Promise initially started out as a way to help women specifically because of my co-founder's experience as a new mother trying to go back into the workplace and sort of having all of those sort of stereotypical views of a new mum pushed upon her. I got involved as somebody who, I don't have children myself personally, but I found myself working a job, being in my late 20s, sort of thinking about, okay, in the future, I want to start a family. And I just had this reflection of my lifestyle, and I thought, this isn't going to happen here at this job. It was really weird. Despite sort of being a couple of years away from feeling sort of emotionally, mentally ready to start a family with my partner, I felt compelled to do something about it and leave and sort of make sure that I was set up in a place that allowed me to be a mother and have the career that I wanted. And then alongside the issues that I saw my friends facing, Emma, my co-founder, facing, there was no reason that my experience wouldn't be different and that I wouldn't face that discrimination too. So I sort of jumped on board with Emma to create something that would work for current parents, but also the next generation of parents, which I think is an important thing to touch upon, because when you leave a job, you don't really ever reveal that information. You know, the exit interview that you normally get doesn't ever ask that question. I mean, what would you ask anyway? But my employer doesn't know that part of the reason why I left was that I couldn't see a real future there because of the impact that job had on my lifestyle. So now I'm just super passionate about making sure that no woman has to sort of choose between having a family and having the career that she wants.
Amazing. I think from a perspective of businesses that are looking into this, I've spoken about you guys to a fair few companies for this. We talk a lot about the retention in the workplace at the moment. We talk about it in the realms of how menopause is affecting retention in the workplace and how women aren't feeling supported in that aspect. When it comes to postnatal, prenatal, or anybody like yourself that might be wanting to do that next step but not feeling supported in order to do so. The workplaces that you now do work alongside, have they seen an improvement within retention? Have they found that the people in their workforce feel more passionately about working for them? They feel more supported? You have found that?
Yes, for sure. Like everybody that sees the service has spoken really positively about it. We get messages from clients saying that everyone's really loving the service and they feel cared for. And ultimately, I think the main benefit, a lot of employers, I say employers, I guess, on the HR level, those are the people that are dealing with these issues more intimately than your sort of senior decision makers. They can see directly how perhaps their company's values aren't translating day to day. So saying that you're a family-friendly business doesn't mean anything if you've got a new mum that's just returned from work that is feeling like she's not needed or valued. That HR manager sees that. So our work helps businesses to align their values to actual initiatives that work on the ground. And we know this retention is a huge issue. Over 50% of new mothers change jobs after maternity leave, which is massive. And I think I want to emphasize that is they change jobs. They're not leaving the labour market. They're moving to other jobs that work better with their lifestyle. So people are losing really good talent. And actually a third of dads as well change jobs for a better work-life balance. That coupled with the fact that 80% of workers will become parents or are parents at some point during their career. So it affects a huge proportion of the workforce, albeit not all at the same time. But the effect's cumulative, right? You have 5 this year, next year it's another 5. That's 10 people that you've had an effect on during a transformational moment.
Yeah. What's the current process that's in place, kind of like from a legal stance in businesses? Is there one?
Not really. There's no real legislative framework for businesses to work from.
No.
That is legislated.
So everyone's just winging it.
Yeah, it's obviously there's all the stuff around statutory pay and entitlements whilst on maternity or paternity leave. Businesses are obliged to obviously tell you what your rights are in that respect. A lot of it falls under well-being. So we find that a lot of businesses tend to have their core well-being initiatives. They're quite well structured, your Calm or your Headspace apps, this kind of thing. But all of that is quite general well-being. That's not really targeted towards people who are starting families. A lot of that anxiety and stress is around the unknown and not knowing how to care for a new human being. So if you're able to give people like barrier-free access to that type of support, the theory is people shouldn't have to worry about those types of things. They should be able to enjoy their time as parents a lot more without having to stress about work and all the other stuff that comes with that as well.
So what we need is to get your framework into every office and HR department in the UK and beyond, don't we really?
And as well, for those businesses that are more progressive, there are these sort of return to work programs in place. And a lot of that involves sort of coaching, helping women with confidence and sort of finding themselves, all that kind of stuff. And yes, there is kind of a place for that, but actually that's not the real issue. People just need practical support. And actually a return to work process shouldn't start a month or two before somebody returns back to work. It should start from the moment people reveal to you that they're pregnant or they're expecting. Plans should start then, so that before people even go on any form of parental leave, they have an idea of what support's going to be available to them when they come back. What are the touch points? Who's going to reach out to me? What choices do I have? All of that is so important. So we're trying to sort of help those more progressive businesses rethink their approach and to try to start all of that much, much sooner.
You are so right. You can be pregnant with your first child and be looking at nurseries for that child that's not even here right now. And that's how forward thinking, mums and their partners have got to be. But they don't ever take the step back to think, how am I going to get myself back to my whatever normal job will be? So you're saying that from the moment that somebody says to you, I'm pregnant, I'm expecting, I'm going to be having a baby, realistically, people within, whether it be a HR department, whether it be someone within management, should really be having something there to say, right, okay, how's this going to work for you? And if that was there, the world will be a much brighter place for people returning to work post-pregnancy.
Yes, exactly.
I can't disagree with it. What is the future holding for Parent Promise? Where are you at? Where's the vision? Where's it going?
Well, as you mentioned, there's no real sort of framework for businesses to follow when they're looking at supporting parents. So we would like our framework to be implemented countrywide in the UK. We just want to help more and more people. So we just also as well want to let businesses know that it doesn't have to be difficult as well. There are people like us that can help you. You're not by yourself. So I guess, and reducing the motherhood penalty. I think that's a big thing as well.
Tell me about that.
So we know at the moment that over 60% of the gender pay gap is attributed to the motherhood penalty. So we cannot solve the gender pay gap without supporting women as they become mothers. That's a whole podcast topic
on its own.
But it's huge. There's an amazing report by PwC that was published earlier this year that goes into all the statistics, also touches on how increasing paternity leave is also a solution to that problem as well. And moving to a more equalised parental model where we're no longer identifying a primary and secondary caregiver. People are just caregivers, and everything is
there's still that assumption, and I think we're all really guilty of making it that mum's mum, and dad can go and or other mum can do whatever they want to do, and there's always that one parent that's in charge of you. No one ever goes, are you all right having the baby? It's just assumed. So it's really interesting to see that there will be changes in that, or we're at least striving for changes in that. Friends of ours, they won't mind me saying it, they actually did it on a little bit of a role reversal. So mum had beautiful baby and went straight back to work, and dad took stay-at-home dad duty, and it's worked so well for them. And I feel like that's maybe a topic that isn't talked about enough. I feel like men don't feel like they can have that opportunity. My partner always laughs and goes, I'd be really happy to do that. You go back and do whatever you want. I'm happy to do that. Do you have a lot of men that will reach out to you for questions in regards to that? And what's the response to that you have for them?
I think a lot of the time we find that the amount of paternity leave that's offered for 55% of men, that's a really important consideration when looking at their jobs. And I think obviously we don't have the statistics from like 10 years ago, but I doubt that those numbers would be any higher, if not much lower than that. And I think the real issue is empowering men to take up their full entitlements. I've spoken to companies who offer amazing paternity leave policies, so 26 weeks full pay, which is amazing for paternity, but men aren't taking up those entitlements. There's a wider issue. There are still some perceived biases in place, because I also read a statistic that showed that 70% of men believe that they should be taking more leave. So if that's the vast majority, you'd think that those biases wouldn't exist. So what's actually happening day to day? What behaviours are existing in the workplace that is making people still think that those biases are there? It's really interesting. It's a huge issue, and there's so many studies going on to delve into this. We're actually commissioning our own study as well to explore this a bit further, to see if there's ways that we can ensure that men are taking up their full entitlements.
I will be really interested to read that one. So people who are listening today, whether they be about to embark on maternity, whether they are very like you back in the day thinking about embarking on maternity, companies who want to support their workforce more, how can they be in contact with you and how can you help them?
Yeah, so the best way would be to reach out to us on our website, parentpromise.co.uk. There's a contact form. If you're a business, basically we can talk to you about what you're currently doing and even give you some quick wins, so things that you can implement that sort of low effort, just to start you going on your journey. And for parents who are struggling, equally, we're always open to chatting as well, to supporting you and also helping you get your business to implement change as well for the benefit of you and also for future parents as well. So yeah, best way, contact form on parentpromise.co.uk.
Thank you so much for coming and for educating me about Parent Promise. I've known a little bit about it, but now I feel like I know a lot more. And I know that the people that are listening to this are really going to take away some food for thought. It's incredible what you're doing, and we are so supportive of it if there's anything that we can do in the future to help. But thank you for being here. And thank you very much, Natalie.
Well, thanks so much, Kelly. It's been lovely chatting to you.